The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. When Steve Jobs shared this insight, he pointed to one of the most powerful skills a leader can master. Jobs' own Stanford commencement address is a case study in how to use personal stories to inspire action and connect with an audience. In business, leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and brands like Apple have shown that storytelling is not just about sharing information, it's about building emotional resonance and moving people to act. In this video, you'll learn 3 core storytelling secrets: how to construct emotional arcs like Jobs, how to frame your message with Simon Sinek's Why, and how to structure your story using Joseph Campbell's blueprint. We'll unpack practical examples you can apply immediately, setting the stage for understanding why certain stories stay with us long after we hear them. If you're new here, please subscribe and like, because I share tips to help you improve your career. Understanding why stories persuade us starts with how the brain responds to narrative. When we hear a story, our brains light up in areas linked to emotion, memory, and decision-making. Unlike data alone, stories trigger brain chemistry that fosters empathy and trust. This is why a message delivered through narrative often feels more compelling and memorable than a list of facts. For example, Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech moved an entire generation not because of detailed plans, but because it communicated core beliefs that resonated deeply with listeners. When a story connects with our values, it inspires action. Leaders often fall into the trap of relying on facts and statistics, hoping logic alone will persuade. However, a Stanford study found that presentations using stories result in 22% better recall than those relying only on data. The difference comes down to how stories help audiences relate personally to the message. Consider how Steve Jobs introduced the Think Different campaign. Instead of focusing on technical features, he spoke about challenging the status quo and believing in innovation, what Simon Sinek calls starting with why. This approach directly engages the part of the brain that drives behavior, helping people make choices that feel right on a gut level. One practical way to gauge whether your story is landing is to observe real-time audience reactions. Look for nods, thoughtful questions, or moments when people lean in. These are signs your message is resonating and prompting engagement. In business settings, content that sparks genuine interaction is also more likely to be shared, amplifying its reach and impact. By understanding the psychology behind why stories work, you gain a foundation for crafting messages that don't just inform, they inspire. The next step is to see how structure can turn a good story into a truly captivating narrative. If you're finding this helpful, please subscribe and like, because it helps us create content that matters to you. Also, if you want to take your skills further, check out our executive education and executive coaching programs at execbeat.com. A master storyteller relies on structure to make every message stick. Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, when adapted for business, becomes a practical framework that transforms routine updates into compelling stories. Rather than moving in a straight line, this approach uses a cyclical arc to build tension and reward, which is what makes some speeches unforgettable. Steve Jobs' 2005 Stanford commencement address is a clear example. He didn't just recount events, he organized his speech around 3 distinct acts, connecting the dots, love and loss, and death. In the first act, Jobs described how seemingly random experiences, like studying calligraphy, later shaped the Macintosh. In the second, he reframed his firing from Apple as a catalyst for innovation, leading to his work with Pixar and Next. The final act, centered on his cancer diagnosis, drove home the urgency of living authentically and focusing on what matters most. Each story built tension and offered resolution, mirroring the classic structure that resonates with audiences. Research backs up the power of this approach. As noted earlier, A Stanford study found that stories are 22% more memorable than presentations built on data alone. Jobs applied this lesson not just in speeches, but in product launches. He set up a problem, often a clunky device or unsolved need, then introduced Apple's solution as the hero, culminating in a reveal that felt earned. This rhythm of problem, struggle, and resolution taps into our emotions and keeps us invested. Simon Sinek's Golden Circle framework adds another layer of structure. He argues that you should start with why, your purpose or belief, before moving to how and what. Sinek illustrates this with the story of the Wright brothers, who succeeded because they were driven by a clear purpose, compared to Samuel Langley, who had resources but lacked a compelling why. The Wright brothers inspired commitment, while Langley's team worked for a paycheck. This example demonstrates that people are motivated by belief, not just logic or incentives. To put this blueprint into action, first, clarify your why, the core purpose that drives your story. Next, map your message into 3 acts that move from conflict to resolution. Finally, close with a call to action that aligns with your audience's values and beliefs. This approach ensures your message is not only heard, but remembered and acted upon. By applying these structural principles, you equip yourself with a tool that goes beyond simple communication. It becomes a way to influence and inspire at the highest level, especially when the stakes are high. Imagine your next presentation described as an epic finale no one can forget. The most effective leaders use storytelling as a strategic tool to build trust, inspire action, and create lasting connections. Companies that embrace narrative-driven communication consistently outperform their peers, showing the real impact of stories in leadership. Which storytelling technique from this video will you try first? Share your approach in the comments below. If you noticed even one insight you can use, subscribe for our next deep dive on storytelling innovation. The story you choose to tell shapes how others remember your leadership. Make it count. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like, because it helps us bring you more free videos. And if you're ready to grow your career, visit execbeat.com to learn about our executive education and coaching.